so much for taking time out of your day to join us for the NeedyMeds special topic webinar, RX Outreach, Making Medications Affordable. My name is Carla. I am the Director of Education and Partnerships at NeedyMeds. And before we get started, I want to go over a few tips so you can make the most out of today's presentation. If you have questions, you can type them at any time into the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Just know we will reserve answering questions until the end. If we don't have the time to answer your question, we'll follow up with you via email. Of course, the contact information for both NeedyMeds and RX Outreach will be provided. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the NeedyMeds YouTube channel. And you can find copies of the PowerPoint slide decks accompanying today's presentation in the handout section of your control panel. So let's get started with what is NeedyMeds. What you're looking at on my screen now is our mission statement and a statement about how we achieve our mission. But simply put, NeedyMeds connects people to programs that will help them afford their healthcare expenses. And we do that free and anonymously through our website, needymeds.org, and our helpline, 1-800-503-6897. And I always like to put up a screenshot of our website because it's really the face of our organization, and it gives me an opportunity to point out just a few of our resources. If you're looking for healthcare cost savings resources, you'll find those under the Patient Savings tab. I mentioned that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, and you can find that on the top right of our homepage. It's the third icon from the left, there with the rest of the other social media icons. And you can find a link to our partner, RX Outreach, also right on our homepage on the right-hand side, which brings us to today's webinar, RX Outreach, Making Medications Affordable. And as you saw on our mission statement, an important part of what we do is educating people. And we do that by letting them know about NeedyMeds and the resources we have, but also by letting them know about other ways to save on healthcare expenses, which is why we are so pleased to have our guest panelist here with us today. It's my pleasure to introduce Kimberly Stemley, the Executive VP, Business Development and Chief Financial Officer from RX Outreach. So first, let me tell you a little bit about RX Outreach. They are the nation's largest nonprofit, fully licensed mail order pharmacy and patient assistance program, offering more than 360 branded and generic medications at affordable prices. RX Outreach has served over 267,000 low-income patients, saving them more than $590 million since its incorporation just in 2010. Pretty impressive. So now let me tell you a little bit about our guest, Ms. Kimberly Stemley, who is equally impressive. Kim, as I said, is the Executive Vice President, Business Development and Chief Financial Officer for RX Outreach. Her focus every day is simple: ensuring the most disenfranchised in our country and region have access to life-sustaining medication. Kim has over 17 years of experience in finance, business strategy, and development. She serves on the Community Advisory Council for the Missouri Foundation for Health as their vice chair. She is a founding board member of Proclaris Mastery Academy Charter School and previous Accounting Careers Task Force chair for the Missouri Society of CPAs. She graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and a minor in Business Administration from Tennessee State University in 2000, and she obtained her licensure as a Certified Public Accountant in 2004. So without further ado, and hopefully seamlessly, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic and the screen to Kim, so bear with us while I do that. It may take a moment. And in the meantime, I'll remind everybody that if you do have questions, you can feel free and go ahead and type them into that question section of your GoToWebinar control panel. And Kim, I can see your screen clearly, and I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic to you. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy the presentation.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you so much. That was a seamless transition, so we did good. I want to thank everyone as well for your attendance today, for signing up to learn more about RX Outreach, and really the wonderful partnership that we also have with NeedyMeds. So we are going to hopefully do a good explanation to who we are as an organization, why we do what we do, and hopefully how we can benefit you or someone that you love. So our topics of discussion today are going to be a few points. What is RX Outreach? And we're going to dive a little bit deeper from the introduction as well that Carla just gave us to give a in-depth explanation as to what we do every single day. And then when to consider RX Outreach? When should I stop and think about, is this an organization that can help me? Is this going to help me right now with my current medication needs and medication adherence needs? Why RX Outreach? And I think that's one of my favorite ones, so we'll talk through that. And then how to use RX Outreach. So the what is RX Outreach? A little bit about our history as well. Obviously, what Carla has already mentioned is that we are a nonprofit mail order pharmacy, and I think she added the words fully licensed, which we are. So we're fully licensed throughout the entire state or throughout the entire nation. But we were created as a program initially under Express Scripts in 2004. The initial goal that was the intent in the program under the Express Scripts umbrella was simple, was to ensure that people had access to the medication that they need, which meant to make medication affordable for people that have a need. At that time, we defined need as individuals that were up to 300% of the federal poverty level. And as we go through the presentation today, you can see we recently changed that in 2019 to 400% of the federal poverty level. And we'll go into some of the reasons of why as well. So we're missioned. We are, again, a nonprofit organization with simply the mission to work within the safety net and with safety net providers to serve those in need of affordable medication. Again, we service all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. We have, here it says over 500 medications. We actually have over 600 medications and over 1,000 different strengths. So we cover a wide breadth on our formulary of medications that are commonly used if you have a chronic medical condition. In 2018, we shipped over 350,000 prescriptions nationwide. And just within our NeedyMeds RX Outreach partnership that we actually have shipped over 8,500 prescriptions to individuals that were referred directly from NeedyMeds in 2018, which I think is awesome. I always love that number. And then this last bullet point on here, we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well, but it simply says we do not require a coupon, nor do we offer a discount card. And we've got our smiley face there because I always think that's awesome. A lot of times being a nonprofit mail order pharmacy, there's all kinds of solutions that exist within the medication realm and trying to ensure people have access to medicines. But some of those come with discount cards, some of those come with coupons and all of those different things, and we just don't. We wanted the access to our program to be as easy as we possibly could make it so we could ensure that no one was left out of this process. And then the last two pictures on this slide I think are always fun for me to point out because this is where I walk into work every day. So the first one on the left is actually the front door of RX Outreach here in St. Louis, Missouri, and then the one on the right is actually a picture of our pharmacy. And so I'd like to show that because since we are mail order, you can't just walk into our buildings, right? We're not exactly down the street, but we exist. And there's a picture of our pharmacy. It's a very state-of-the-art pharmacy. We have the robotic arms and everything with the I call it the racetrack. But where the prescriptions themselves actually go along the track, and the pharmacists themselves, which you have 8 pharmacists on staff, they actually pick up and review those medications to ensure we're getting them to our patient population safely. So we have a great operation here. In addition to what you see here, we do have a call center, data entry, and an IT support function, 100% dedicated to ensuring our patient experience is the best one that we could possibly give. So our next point, when to consider RX outreach. So I'm going to flip back a little bit because this first slide talks about when to consider RX outreach as the provider. But if I click to the next one, it says when to consider RX outreach as the patient or caregiver. And I'm going to go back to that other one with the provider perspective. But I like to start here because, one, our experience is to serve the patient, right? And so I want to make sure that as patients, although all of the individuals that are logging in today would learn from a patient perspective, why does this benefit me? Why does RX outreach benefit me? And then we also have patient/caregiver, and I think that's important too. I'm personally, I'm a caregiver for my mother, and so it's not always you that needs the service, but it may be a loved one or someone that you are caring for that may benefit from RX outreach. So let's go through the bullet points. And the first one here is consider RX outreach if for any reason you're spending your own money. And I love that. That's just simple. If you are spending your own money in obtaining medications, then you might want to see and check out RX Outreach and see if we are for you and if we can possibly make that medication more affordable for you. And so one of the common terms that we like to use is that RX Outreach is for individuals that are underinsured or uninsured. So both. If you're underinsured, meaning you have medication insurance of some sort, but it just isn't covering the whole cost or more, it's not covering enough of the cost that makes it affordable to you at that point. Or if you're uninsured and I just don't have anything to help with these costs, then you definitely want to consider RX Outreach. Again, when you do not qualify for assistance at all, so you don't qualify for Medicaid, you don't qualify for a PAP, which means a patient assistance program, definitely look at RX Outreach. When you have no documentation, and so initially, when RX Outreach was set up and established in 2004, again, we have the same requirements of entry then that we have now. And the thought process was to make the access and enrollment into the program as easy as possible and not put hindrances on who could participate. And so this is one of those requirements that we put in place, that no documentation of citizenship is required, and we also do self-attestation on your level of income, which means we don't ask for you to send in W-2s or pay stubs and things of those nature to ensure that you can have access to the program. When you have more than one medication, and so I think that's important too, because medication costs get expensive, and so the more medications that you're on, that could be several $100s, maybe in some cases. I've definitely heard several $1,000s a month as well for the cost of medications. And so if you're on more than one, it's likely that we could help in that process. When medication compliance is threatened by mobility or the lack of easy access to care and medication, I would definitely at that point look at RX Outreach as a potential provider, because we are mail order. And so we can ship to you directly to your home or an advocate that you have been working with. So we do both, and it's common for us to do both, where we ship directly to the patient's home or we ship to a clinic or a like advocate that you can pick the medication up from there. Now, the last one, if insured but the copays are too high, I think that is self-explanatory. Even when you have insurance, sometimes just the copays of what they're asking you are actually more than what you can afford to pay. So why RX Outreach? And the first one on here says that we are mission to focus on the patient. And I'm going to repeat certain things because I think it's important that Carla recently said, but our mission is simple and it is clear, and it is simply that we provide affordable medication for people in need. We live with that mission every single day. And when we walk into our building, we see it every single day in our lobby. So we're the only nationwide nonprofit, fully licensed mail order pharmacy that's committed to helping people get medication at an affordable price. And so we're transparent. The medication price that you see is the price that's delivered to you. The website, which we will list at towards the end of the program of today, is rx.reach.org. But when you go online and look at the medications that are listed on our formulary, the price that's attached to that is the price that you pay. There's no additional or hidden fees. There are no enrollment fees. There's no membership fees, and there are no shipping fees. So I think that's always great to upfront tell people that is a reality when we kind of talk about the program. Again, we serve the uninsured and underinsured and insured population as well, with household incomes below 400% of the FPL. And we talked about that before, but we'll get a little bit more in depth about what that means in a minute. We are a sustainable source for 30, 60, 90, and 180-day supplies of affordable medication. And so we recently, within the last year, went to a 30-day supply of medication. We traditionally operated in a 90 and 180-day supply of medication, but we were hearing from our patients more and more that even though those prices are great at 90 and 180-day supplies, it would be even more affordable if you could break that down further and give me a 30 and a 60-day option. So we responded to that, and we have added 30 and 60 days to our formulary. And then the last one says we're committed to serving and supporting NeedyMeds and its constituents. I think it's important at this point to highlight that we've been in partnership with NeedyMeds for over 10 years. So we have a great working relationship between the two of us, and we have a great relationship and track record in serving our patients and the partnerships that NeedyMeds has. What's not on here is that simply the Rx Outreach only exists to make medication affordable. So I can tell you wholeheartedly every single day the decisions that we make. If we can't get the medication where it's affordable to us and then therefore pass forward those savings and make it affordable to our patients, we don't add anything on the program that is not deemed to be affordable. So how do you use Rx Outreach? And I always say it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, but it is. And again, from inception, we wanted it to be an easy process. The patients must enroll in our program, and those patients are, they can be clinic initiated, they can be patient initiated, and the process of enrolling is really easy. So we can enroll either online, and the website is there at rx.reach.org. You can call, and calling in is at the 1-800 number that's listed there. You can mail in your prescription as well, or your application, into our organization. And that application is housed within our website. You can download that application and print it off, mail it in to us, or you can fill it out actually and upload it online. So you can kind of have both options. The enrollment is pretty easy. What you need to enroll is simply your name, your address, and your household income. Again, we don't request proof of income, but we do need you to tell us what your income level is. You can submit the prescriptions by fax, e-prescribe, or mail them to us. And when we say e-prescribe, I always like to say, that's a common term that we use every day. But that simply means that when you're at your doctor, you can tell your doctor, I want this prescription to be sent to Rx Outreach. And they have a system within their database to look up all the pharmacies listed, and they'll see Rx Outreach and send it directly to us. It's no different in telling your doctor, hey, I want you to send this to the Walgreens at the corner of Main and 5th. They'll see all of those, and we are also a prescriber listed in e-prescribing. And then upon receipt of your payment, the medications are shipped directly to the address of choice that you've given us. And then the thing that we also do is we do refill and prescription renewal reminders directly to the patient. And in that instance, I think that's awesome because we reach out directly to the patient to remind them of the time to fill. And this also helps with medication compliance. And so life happens to us all. And so if it slips our mind that, hey, I should have refilled my medicine, 2 weeks ago or a month ago, we kind of help with that process, and we remind you in advance that you're going to need to refill your medicine coming up pretty soon. And I'm going to actually go back a few slides because I think I mentioned that I skipped over when to consider RX outreach for the provider and the clinic. And I want to make sure for our providers and our clinics that are actually on the phone that they can see the thought process as well of when to consider using RX outreach when you're advocating for a patient. And the first one listed on here is when you have exhausted all options for free medication and affordability is required. Right now, we work with thousands of clinics, free and charitable clinics, and other types of clinics nationwide that serve as advocates for people every day, all day. And so what we do in working directly with them is that we also try to educate our clinics and our providers of the benefits of using RX outreach. And so when you are attempting to get free medication and you're working with the PAP or you're working with even Medicaid, and we have many Medicaid eligible patients that still use RX outreach for certain medications because we're still, believe it or not, we still may be cheaper than what they may have access to. So the second one, when patients do not qualify for patient assistance or Medicaid, consider us. When the patient has no documentation, when an existing pharmacy relationship does not have the needed or preferred medication or the medication strength, take a look at our formulary. Go online. It's really quick. It's really easy. And just look up and see, hey, does RX outreach carry the strength that the doctor is really wanting to prescribe? And then when the patient's compliance is threatened by mobility. And I think that comes into play more often than we think, but particularly if a patient can't get to the pharmacy, whether it's for literal transportation reasons or for because they live in maybe a rural area or more an area that has less access to medical and healthcare providers in general, then RX outreach is a great source as well for that individual. And then I'm going to move back forward. And I want to talk briefly about serving those in need. And as I mentioned before, we initially had our requirement to enter our program set at 300% of the federal poverty level. We recently, and as recently as of May of this year, increased that to 400% of the poverty level. And there were reasons why we did that, and I want to talk about some of the whys, and then have you actually stop and look at this chart and see where do I fit, or do I fit, or does my loved one fit in this bracket anywhere. So in response to the ongoing challenges that patients face in paying their out-of-pocket costs for prescription medications, RX Outreach raised our allowable income level for its core program. And like I said, we raised that to 400% of the FPL. So health insurance policies have continued to shift more of those costs and the cost burden to individuals and families through higher deductibles, increased copays, and increased coinsurance. And so that increased the out-of-pocket costs that are probably happening for many of our patients that we serve now. Additionally, the medication tier structure that many healthcare plans have adopted result in higher out-of-pocket costs for prescription medications. And so most formularies operate on a tier basis, and some of those higher tiers and the structuring of those tiers will then put the medication that could be very, very much so life-sustaining for you, put it in a bracket that now is at a higher cost bracket for you. And that's happened a lot in the last several years. And then our patient assistance program, excuse me, and our copay programs or patient assistance programs and copay programs have shifted their allowable income levels higher or higher tiered levels. And so the combination of all three of these happening in increased numbers over the last several years have made the need nationwide to increase our enrollment to 400%. Because what we're finding is that word affordable is also a relative perspective, right? And so affordable to one person may not be affordable to the next. And then the cost structure of prescription drugs are shifting where they are becoming more and more pricey to actually get the medication that you do need. And so the top portion of this particular slide, I would ask that you take a look at it and see where I fall in, how many people are in your household, where do I live, and what state and region of the nation do I live, and then see in that case, do you or am I eligible for RX outreach? So one of our last slides that I do want to go through is just kind of a capturing everything that I've just said. I like this because it bullet points really a lot of the high-level advantages of using the RX Outreach program. Number one, it's home delivery. And so because we're mail order, the medications are delivered directly to your home, eliminating transportation and mobility issues. And for many, many people, that is critical in ensuring that they can receive the medication and can stay compliant on the medication. It's easy access. Again, we wanted the enrollment process to be as easy as we can. So it's easy enrollment online, by phone, or mail. And then, which I haven't stated yet, but it's easy to transfer prescriptions. And so right now, if you're currently on medication that prescription is housed at a local pharmacy or a pharmacy somewhere else, you can transfer that prescription directly to us, and we can then begin to pick up that medication and hopefully be able to save you some money in doing so. And so the transfer of those medications, that process is also a transfer form that can be found online as well. It's a comprehensive formulary. Again, we cover over 600 branded chronic and generic medications. And so, or chronic and non-chronic medications. And so we cover branded and generic medications, but it's, in terms of the number of medications, I think we're well into like 3,000 or 4,000 individual strengths of medications that we have on our formulary. So what that means is we have a lot of medications that we offer to people nationwide, and that one of the things that we do in adding and creating that formulary is we wanted to ensure that covers all disease states. So that's literally every disease state that has been recognized. Everything from chronic pain, high cholesterol, diabetes medications are on there. So pretty much everything that could be considered a chronic med is likely on our formulary, or it's pretty extensive, I would say. Our quality and day supplies are in 30, it's actually 30, 60, and 90, 30, 60, 90, and 180 day supplies of medication. Insurance coverage, again, you can have insurance and still use RX Outreach because it's not based upon what insurance carrier you have as opposed to what your income level is. And so that's the difference between RX Outreach and many other places where you can get access to medication. And so you still can have insurance. It just literally means we look solely at what your income level is and your household income level based upon those tiers. And then there's transparent pricing. What you see, again, is what you get. We don't require a discount card or a coupon. There are no hidden charges. There are no enrollment fees, and there are no mailing charges. And so all of that, and the bullet point that's not on there that I always like to say is when we say affordable in general, I know that the medications are anywhere between 70 to 90% below retail value. And so if someone needs help getting access to their medication and price is a problem, or transportation is a problem, always say that RX Outreach is literally a no-brainer, and just give us a call and see how we can help you out. So at that, I think we're going to open this back up to questions. And Carla, do you want me to turn it back over to you?
Great. And I should be able to go ahead and just grab my screen. And I want to thank Kim for taking time out of her day to share her expertise with the NeedyMeds audience. As she had said, we have had a partnership, NeedyMeds and RX Outreach, for 10 plus years. And as evidenced by today's presentation, which I'm so thrilled for, which we got a great turnout, you can see that not only is RX Outreach the nonprofit pharmacy that they offer a fantastic service, but what I really like to drive home is they eliminate all obstacles. Sometimes there's a lot of helpful options out there, but really the hoops you have to jump through to obtain the help is oftentimes a deterrent. And we see that all the time when it comes to the world of healthcare. One of the wonderful things about RX Outreach that Kim did a great job of driving home is simply that they remove all of those obstacles and make enrolling, as she said, as easy as 1, 2, 3. I do see some questions coming in, so thank you to the audience for that. And we're going to get to those in just a moment. In the meantime, as those questions are coming in, and you could, again, go ahead and type them into that question section of your control panel, I want to remind everybody that NeedyMeds is also here to help you with your healthcare expenses. What I'm showing on the screen now are our most popular destinations on our website, and the most popular reasons people call our expert counselors at 1-800-503-6897. So it just gives you a glimpse of the breadth and scope of the healthcare cost savings resources we offer. And our goal is NeedyMeds, together with RX Outreach, we will be able to cover your healthcare needs with just a few clicks of your mouse or one phone call. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and certainly if you have any questions. With that, I want to leave up the contact information as promised for both of our organizations on your screen. The top is filled with outreach information for RX Outreach, and at the bottom you can see the NeedyMeds website and toll-free helpline. So let's get to those questions. One of the first questions coming in, and I think the answer to this is no, but Kim, I'm going to ask you anyway. Does RX Outreach have pre-filled medication boxes or packages?
So I think I'm going to repeat the question to just make sure I understand it. So does RX Outreach have pre-filled medication packages or boxes?
That's right.
And the answer is yes and no. So in general, no. All of our medication that we dispense, we do have to receive a prescription for most of the medications. We actually do carry some OTCs or over-the-counter medications, but if we receive a prescription, it could be a 90-day fill, a 60-day, whatever, and then it depends on how your doctor prescribed, right? So they want you to take 1 a day, 3 a day, and so in those cases, those actually have to be hand-filled, and so the medications themselves are obtained directly from the same drug manufacturers that would be found at a Walgreens or CVS or Rite Aid, and then our pharmacists actually are responsible for filling those exactly to the prescription's order. So that's one answer. But the other is if that prescription that is received is for, and there are certain strengths depending upon the medication type. Sometimes the common medication prescribing method is actually the bottle. And so it's common in a few cases where the common prescribing method and common practice in pharma world is actually to prescribe a bottle of X. And so in those cases, we do ship the bottle. But in general, no, we don't.
Thank you so much, and thank you to our audience member for asking that question, and Kim to the very thorough response. It helped me too. Clearly, I didn't know the answer to that, so that's important. Another great question coming in, and I'm sure you get this quite a bit, Kim, is so patients only have to write down what their income is, and they don't have to prove it. How do you know that people are being truthful? I love that question, and I bet you get that a lot.
Of course we do. So we do. We get that a lot. And the answer is at the bottom, there's a couple of answers. At the bottom of every application or enrollment form, it does say that RX Outreach reserves the right to audit your enrollment, right? And so there is an auditable action that on an annual basis we do take less than, we take a percentage, but we do take an auditable statistical rate to determine how many of those do we actually have to provide proof that this person falls within this category. The second part of it is we do statistical analysis as well to do zip code testing and other types of testing that ensure that in general the patient population that we're serving meets the income level requirement that we serve. And so we kind of fought pretty hard initially with, almost 10 years ago when we became a nonprofit 501c, that we wanted to stay in that bracket of being able to enroll people and look at their income and do a self-attestation method. And I say fought pretty hard is because we needed to prove that out, that process was okay with the IRS. And so we've been given the green light by them to keep it in that format. And as long as we can keep it in that format and make it easy for our patients to gain access, and that we do internal checks as well to ensure we're serving our patient population, we're good with it.
Again, such a great question from our audience member, and I find myself saying this in almost all of our presentations, which is that if there's one member of our audience that is thinking of something, I hope they ask it, because if you're thinking of it, chances are somebody else is, and it gives our presenters an opportunity to drill down into something a little bit further that may not have been included in the presentation, but are important. So another question coming in, I bet this is another common one, which is how much does RX outreach cost, both to the patient and the provider?
Great question. So the cost to be in the program is zero. So it's absolutely free to be in the RX outreach program. Again, I think we've talked through it with several slides, and I keep repeating it because it is important. There's usually hidden costs all over when you work with many providers, but with us there aren't any hidden costs. So there's no cost to enroll, there's no cost as a member, and there are no shipping costs. So literally the price that you see on the formulary is the price that the patient and the provider, if the provider is operating on behalf of the patient, that's what you'll actually pay.
That's an important fact to certainly have an opportunity to drive home. And we're going to close because we are running out of time with one more, what I hope is a quick question, which is, does RX Outreach have inhalers?
Yes, we do have inhalers. And so we actually have several types of inhalers on our program. We did have ProAir inhalers, and then we had albuterol as well. And so we started carrying, we've been carrying inhalers now for, almost since inception. And we always look to hear as well from our patients if you guys tell us what you also want on the program as well. So initially the inhalers that we have were really a response from talking to our patients and them telling us, hey, I really am struggling affording this. And so, we heard it enough times, and so we added not just inhalers, but the specific inhalers that we have on our program today. And so and Carla, I don't know if you know this as well, but we had somewhat of a similar response in April of this year when we did our last webinar with NeedyMeds. And we just heard from the Hep B Foundation, and they called us after our webinar, and they gave us a call and said, hey, we are hearing a lot of patients say they can't afford this particular Hep B medication. We did the sourcing on it and found that we could get it and get it affordable. and transfer and move forward those savings to our patients. And we did that. And so we have added those Hep B medications to our formulary and servicing a population of people that really need it and saving a lot of money. And so the answer to that is simply yes, we do. But at the same time, feel free to let us know if you see something on the formulary that or if you look at our formulary and don't see exactly what you want to see, or you would like us to carry something in addition to, feel free to give us a call and reach out, and we will definitely look into it and see if we can add it.
Great. And again, thank you to our audience for asking about that specific healthcare need. And because not only did it give Kim a chance to answer it, but it also gave her a chance to showcase that really great example of how important not only it is that our patients, clients, users reach out to organizations such as RX Outreach and NeedyMeds, but how important it is for all of us to work together to fill everyone's needs. We can't do this work alone in a vacuum, and I will certainly mirror Kim's sentiment that anybody that's aware of us being vocal about their needs is important. NeedyMeds also, I can proudly say that much of the resources you find on our website are as a result of communities being vocal about what their needs are. So please continue to do so. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's presentation. I did get a question from an audience member asking about the PowerPoint slide decks, and a reminder that you can find my slide deck, but more importantly, Kim's slide deck in the handout section of your control panel. We will also work to convert today's webinar into a video that you can find on the NeedyMeds YouTube channel. And again, you can find a link to that on the top right-hand corner of our homepage of our website. It's the icon that's a third one from the left with the rest of the social media icons. It usually takes us a couple of days to convert and edit the video, so give us some time to do that. In the meantime, if we didn't get a chance to answer any of your questions, we will follow up with you via email. That may also take some time as well, so don't hesitate if you have something more urgent to reach out directly to RX Outreach or NeedyMeds as with the contact information provided on the slide that you're looking at. With that, thanks so much, Kim, for taking time out of your day to share your expertise with the NeedyMeds users. And thanks, everybody, for joining us. We do hope we see your name pop up in future webinars. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great day.